Oh my god.
Hello, welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra. It is our third episode, and our goal is by episode 4 to figure out the music countdown. We're working on it.
It's gonna happen.
But welcome. I have high hopes for us. But welcome. This is Lido, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, Tuesday, October 8th, a lot was happening in the world. Royals by Lord was the #1 song. Esquire magazine had just named Scarlett Johansson the sexiest woman alive. Gravity was the most popular movie at the domestic box office, and the government was a week into being shut down. But the most important thing that happened on this day 10 years ago was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. third episode, The Asset, aired on ABC at 8/7 Central. Hello, I'm Jamie Girac, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. novice, Tony Paletto. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Jamie. And thank you all for coming back and listening.
Yes, so happy to see everybody in the comments right now. And today I am so excited for our second guest, host of the Comic Book Queers podcast and my original S.H.I.E.L.D. friend. Welcome, Brett Manis.
Hi, how are you? It's so good to see you.
Yeah.
Hi,
Honestly,
Brett.
Hi, Tony. It's great to see you too. I cannot believe 10 years later we're still talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, life provides.
It's amazing. And hopefully we will be for the next 7 years. So, we like to kick off the podcast talking about where we were exactly 10 years ago. And, Jake was our guest last week, and we talked about
Jake!
this. It's the same this week. Yeah, 10 years ago, Brett, we were doing Rocky Horror.
We were doing Rocky Horror.
Yes.
I did see that you talked about that last week. Jake was Frankenfurter. You were Magenta. And I, of course, Tony, you want to take a guess who I was?
Were you the were you the dude, the crooked over dude with the white hair?
One would think. 10 years later, I am given riffraff, but no. 10 years ago, I was given Brad Majors. I was Brad in our production.
Brad is the hunky
Horror.
one?
Brad is not the hunky one. Brad, the lead.
We need to watch this again. Clearly,
the protagonist. Yeah.
Okay.
Like Janet and Brad.
Oh, yeah. right. Janet and Brad. Okay.
Barry Bostwick.
You're the lead. Yeah.
Barry Bostwick. Oh, yes.
Just say Barry Bostwick. I mean, yeah.
Just say Barry Bostwick, you guys.
Oh, I want to shout out one of my best friends in the world, Annie Watkins, is in the chat right now.
Stop,
Annie.
Annie.
Oh my God! What good news! This is great.
What a woman Brett, that woman is. Hi, Annie.
I know. Hi, Annie. Brett, aside from us doing Rocky Horror, do you remember anything else from what you were doing 10 years ago?
So it's so funny. So at that same comedy theater, we actually were just wrapping Assemblers 2, which was our second superhero sketch show that we did at that theater. We did 4 of them. The 4th was the greatest hits, but so we did 3 of them. So we were wrapping Assemblers 2. I was watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I was very excited for episode 3. By the way, kudos. I don't think I realized that you were doing this 10 years to the letter, each and every episode.
Oh, yeah.
When I looked at the original air date of The Asset, it was today. I was like, okay, we're really doing 10-year anniversaries.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was starting the job that I'm still at now, and that I'm the big boss of now. So I started clawing my way up the corporate ladder 10 years ago today, and I'm now the head of creative at the agency I work at.
Beautiful. We love it. Look at how far we've all come. And Tony, what were you doing 10 years ago today?
10 years ago today, so this would have been 1 week after I was working at a wolf preserve in Western Germany. So then after this, I think I was in Brazil running an artisanal basket weaving company with some friends.
I hate.
Did you bring
bit.
the wolves from last week? What were their names? Pickwick and Haberdashery. I forgot.
Oh
their
no,
names.
that was it was oh gosh, it's been so many years
And I know
now.
you could remember because they mean a lot.
Domino and
Domino.
yeah, it was Domino
Backlash.
and Macaroon.
Macaroon.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I
Well,
could not
thanks,
bring
Brett,
them
for
with me. They were
listening.
still pups. Yeah.
You know, I do want to point out that 10 years ago today, another Marvel show premiered. Hulk and the Agents of Smash was running concurrently with Agents of Shield. I just want to point that out, that we have to acknowledge Agents of Smash if we're going to do this Agents of Shield show.
I respect and appreciate it.
Patreon for us, you know?
Maybe. That's why we have Brett on here, because Brett, even though at my job I work with Marvel experts, Brett is still the #1 Marvel expert that I go to.
Well, you know, cool. I do do a comic book show, so we gotta keep our knowledge deep and stay up to breast.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And I will be asking you about that soon. But first, before we get all crazy and dive in, I do want to thank everyone again who is listening and everyone who's been engaging with us on social media. It's been really fun and really cool. And I want to shout out to Scotty Go Boom on Instagram, who had planned to watch along with Tony, but is already on episode 8. He just couldn't live this week to week life. And I really respect
Scott Go Boom,
that.
You did your best, and I appreciate the effort. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Don't worry.
And Tony, you want to give our audience a quick reminder?
Well, yeah, let's remember to just tag those spoilers, guys. Tag them. That just means writing spoiler alert before discussing anything that happens on the show after episode 3. And that's for my sake, and that's for the sake of anybody who's watching this new, like I am. Our producer, Maria Spertolozzi, is in the chat, monitoring the chatting along. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Tony. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Our favorite disembodied voice of all time.
Thank you.
All right. And before we talk about the asset, we got to talk about Brett and your Marvel history and your history with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because you're only our second guest, but you're our first guest that is a mega fan like me. So first, you like me watched the show as soon as it aired.
Oh, as soon as it aired. Like, we were so excited because it was going to be a broad exploration of the Marvel universe, those corners that people didn't know about, the D-list characters, the C-list characters, like they were coming in droves, and it was a very exciting time, especially this episode, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
There's a lot to talk
so
about.
we watched live all 7 seasons. We did not miss an episode. Week to week was painful, so I respect Scotty Go Boom. I understand that pain. Yeah. Back then, 10 years ago.
Yes. Oh, so long ago. I do want to say that there was a time where I did drop off for a little bit between season 1 and 2. I was way behind, and it was really funny because I remember it so well. Me and our friend Amy went to your place, and you cooked us breakfast. I remember because it was the first time I ever had kale, and you made us kale, and you went, "We're watching the new episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D." and I was pissed because I was behind, and I didn't want to watch an episode that there was a big chunk of. But you were like, "No, we're watching it." And for those fans who know the show well, it's Face My Enemy, which is a season 2 episode, a really good episode that I won't say any more of because I don't want to spoil it for Tony. But I watched that episode at your place, and I was like, I have to go back.
I got to get back into it.
And I did, and then from then I was pretty much on track. And I still don't really like kale, but it really helped with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I tried to get you to like kale by associating kale with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it didn't work. But at least it got you back in the show.
Exactly. And so I do also want to talk a little bit about just your history with Marvel, because you are a comics guy. You've been reading comics forever, and you have comic book queers. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and your history.
Well, the comic book history, I'll never forget it. I got my first comic book on Halloween. I was trick-or-treating. We were very little, and I got an issue of a comic book instead of candy in my bag, and it was X Factor number 11 or 12. X Factor was a book where the original 5 X-Men, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Beast, Angel, and Iceman, reformed the team again. So they were X Factor. And I got this. It had a character named Boom Boom on the cover, who would come to be one of my favorite characters, still is to this day. A Beast and Iceman were on the cover. And I read it, and I just loved it. And then I was in a supermarket not too long later, and I saw Uncanny X-Men number 223 in a spinner rack at a supermarket with my mom.
Yeah.
And I just begged. It was a Storm with her mohawk being wrapped by a
Hell
giant
yeah.
like boa constrictor, and she had a knife, and ever since then, I've been obsessed.
The die
I mean,
was cast.
the die was cast, like the ship sailed and never looked back. So reading books ever since, big X-Men fan, still to this day devour anything with an X on it. Our show, Comic Book Queers, is very much centered around the X-Men, although it is about pretty much anything under the genre.
Kind of connected. I read Astonishing X-Men because you recommended it, and that
Yeah.
was Joss Whedon. This
Yep.
is executive
Great
produced
lineup.
by him, so hashtag it's all connected.
It's all connected. Yeah, the
Mhm.
Joss Whedon book. Jamie and I bonded big time over that, which was born out of my favorite run of all time, the Grant Morrison run of X-Men. Anyway, we could do a whole show about this nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to talk Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I love hearing about your Marvel history because you go deep, and I love that. And for us, for our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of my favorite memories is I shared it on Instagram, but we took a photo op with Ian DeCastiger and Elizabeth Henstridge. And it is now the way that I take photo ops with everybody. It was your thing, which is, you pull it up. You told them, you said, let's all pretend like we're best friends. And that is the best way to do a photo op at a con, because no one has ever failed at that direction. And the photos are always hilarious.
I'm so glad you reminded me of that, because I've got 3 crucial ones coming up for New York Comic Con at the end of this week. And I am stressing over what we're going to do with Michelle Gomez, Tom Hiddleston, and Chris Evans. Stressing.
Oh, those are good. Oh, I can't wait to see those. We'll have to share them in our stories.
Just be best friends. It's such
Just
a
be
good
best
bit.
friends. Just walk in. We're best friends. Okay.
Perfect. And so you watched the asset for this. When was the last time you watched season 1?
Honestly, not early season. I haven't watched early season 1 since early season 1, truly. When I have gone back and rewatched, I do not go back this far. There is a pivotal moment in the run of the show that I typically start at, and that comes later. So these episodes, where I'm going to say it, they were still kind of finding their footing. I haven't gone back and watched these.
You should. One that I really recommend is episode 6. Go back and watch.
I will do that. Well, yes, I'm watching them all now.
Oh, great. Well, you're in it now.
We're gonna keep you
back in.
We want to keep you in the rotation here. We want to,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Guest Brett Manis. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love the sound of that.
Yes. All right. So it is time. The Asset, episode 3. It was written by Jedmo, our lovable showrunners. It was directed by Milan Shailov, who directed another episode in season 1 and one in season 2. He's been directing TV since the 90s, a big TV run, but only did 3 episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, we've got our main players. Clark Gregg as Phil Coulson, Chloe Bennett as Skye, Ming-Na Wen as Melinda May, Brett Dalton as Grant Ward, Ian DeCastiger as Leo Fitz, Elizabeth Henstridge as Gemma Simmons, and our guest stars are David Conrad as Ian Quinn and Ian Hart as Franklin Hall. And in this episode, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s own Dr. Franklin Hall is kidnapped, and the team must infiltrate the compound of one Ian Quinn, a wealthy so-called philanthropist, in order to rescue him. But does the doctor want to be saved? I've been having fun doing these really quick synopses.
Those are really good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and so Tony, what are your initial thoughts of this episode?
My favorite one so far. 3 in.
Really? Okay.
I really liked it. Yeah. Cool plot. I'm a fan of subterfuge as a device in any form. So what Skye was getting into when she went to that Maltese island, I was like, yeah, this is would you call that like being of Malta? Is that Maltese? Brett Manis, do you
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
My husband studied abroad in Malta, so I do know, and it is correct.
Oh,
goodness.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
Fun fact.
All right, great. Well, good tie-in. Yeah, I like it. I like her, tightrope of allegiance that's been going on with her. I like Coulson so much. He is making Agent Ward a better man every day. And that is really something that I need, because that guy I don't like very much, but Coulson's just making him better. But no, very suspenseful episode. Good plot. Dug it a lot. My general thoughts complete.
And Brett, going back for the first time since 10 years ago. How did you feel about
Yeah.
this episode now?
I too liked it a lot. It was the opening really is what kind of moved it like one step closer to me really loving the show with Agent Mac, our truck driver. It gave us kind of those things that I was looking for out of a SHIELD show, which is that unexpectedness, those twists, the thing that you think is analog or low tech being high tech, like those types of things. It started with Lola in episode 1. As soon as that car flew, I was like, it's a show about SHIELD, because Lola was a big thing in the comics. So
Speaking of Agent Mac, like I'm so down. I want to see more like blue collar SHIELD guys. Like it's something that never occurred to me. You know what I mean? Like who are the guys that are just? I was like thinking back to like the first Spider-Man film, like that plane that was taking all the Stark tech to wherever was on autopilot, and I was like, oh, that's a bummer. I want to know who would fly that plane. And like so this kind of like answered my thing of like, yeah, there's like a whole like sub-levels of SHIELD employees with different clearance levels and different functions, and I really like that.
It starts to really explore the organization itself. So it delivered upon that. It delivered upon another thing, which was, oh, are we getting our first Marvel supervillain? And so this episode was pivotal for me then, because this is where I started to assume that it was going to take on a formula, which was little arcs about various C-list Marvel supervillains. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what I wanted. So I would say this is the episode that really started to deliver even more on the expectations I had then.
Yeah. And I'll just say now, I know who that dude is. So that was an exciting moment for me. I didn't put it together until the climax, and I don't want to say any more because I mean there's a Tony leaves the room segment, but maybe there should be like the listeners leave the room and then Tony leaves the room right after. But like I know that dude, and I did not know that dude was coming, and that was very cool.
Right.
We will be talking about the comics connection. I do want to say though my thoughts, because I revisit a lot. I've seen this episode a lot, and for me it's not a favorite because once you like know everything, the early episodes to me are just about loving the characters, and there's not a lot of that in this episode. It's except for Skye and Ward, and those aren't the characters I necessarily want to be shining in this moment in time. I like there's not a lot of May in this episode, and so I'm like, oh, all right. But the gravitonium stuff is cool. And that's where I want to start with the gravitonium, because we're dancing around it. Obviously, it's the biggest thing about this episode. So we've got Franklin Hall in here, and Franklin Hall was introduced in the Avengers 158 in April 1977. That's a month before Star Wars was released, to give you you guys an idea in the chat just how long this character has been around. And it was the characters created by Jim Shooter and artist Sal Buscema. Am I saying that right, Brett? Do you know?
Yeah. You are.
Okay, cool. So basically, like Graviton is a Marvel villain, has been around for a while. The character in the comics is named Franklin Hall. This is Dr. Hall. And an interesting thing about this episode was Jeffrey Bell said that they had kind of written this character kind of loose and didn't really know who he was going to be. Then they went back and read a bunch of comics and just picked him and kind of plugged him into the episode later. So this was not started with him. It came later, and I think that's really interesting. So with now no discussion of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s future potential, whether or not we see this guy again, I'm not going to say. I don't know. Who knows? But Brett, do you remember reading any comics with
No, and that was the other side of the coin that was like, oh my God, they're giving us supervillains. Then I was like, and the first one's Gravitron. I don't care about Gravitron. I don't know him. I never saw Gravitron before. I heard of him in like the Marvel handbook. But I don't like Gravitron. So that was the other side of it. So I mean, understand the media I was devouring when these shows were on was everything on the internet about what Marvel Comics characters were going to be in the show. So, I probably would not have seen Franklin Hall introduced and go, oh, Gravitron, but I just knew from message boards that Franklin Hall was Gravitron and Gravitron was coming in, and that's what got me excited. But no, I had no emotional connection to the character in the comics.
And Tony, you had a reaction when we watched. Like, you definitely knew this guy.
I know this guy. I don't think I've ever actually read any comics, but I think I might have. But I don't know how I'm familiar with him. It might have been one of those like top 20 most underrated, powerful villains in the Marvel universe or whatever, and reading about Graviton and being like, oh yeah, that is a really dope power set that he has. And I think it's a very exciting prospect because that dude's no slouch. I mean, that's a really powerful ability that he has.
Great power.
It is a great power, and he could like I feel like the Avengers could fight Graviton and have a hard time doing it.
And I think he is an Avengers villain.
Exactly, yeah. So like he seems like a big player just in terms of his powerfulness. So I'm excited and concerned to see if he comes back and if our guys can take that on.
There are so many
right
villains.
Now he's in the fridge.
Yeah, he's in the fridge.
He's in the fridge.
Yeah, I know. We got some time. He's got to cook for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember, and I meant to look it up. The first mention of the fridge in the MCU. I can't remember. Does anyone remember that? If you know in the comments,
they mention it in the movies.
The fridge is definitely
in the movies. It's the raft, I believe. Like the raft is the more well-known Marvel supervillain.
The island prison.
Yeah,
it's different. Then so I think this is the first time. Yeah. Okay. Then this is the first, because the fridge is going to be something that we definitely hear about again.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. I want to, Saprilla in the comments. Also, everybody, I will butcher your names. If you spell them out for me phonetically after I say them wrong, I'll try to remember for next time. But Saprilla says, I just want to say, can someone please get Fitz a monkey? He deserves it. And I do have in my notes, and I would like to point it out, that we are officially on Fitz Monkey Watch, which means we are going to be counting every time Fitz mentions a monkey, because this is not really a spoiler.
Watch.
Fitz just loves monkeys, Tony. That's just a thing. Like, I don't really think that's a spoiler. So he mentioned monkeys last week. He did make that
remark, yeah.
Yeah, he mentioned monkeys last week when they were in Peru, and then this week he was like, "What if we sent a monkey in there?" That's his brilliant plan. So
with their adorable little hands.
Hang on, producer Maria. Producer Maria breaking in. Yes, this is the first mention of the fridge in the MCU.
Thank you, Maria.
You're
Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I like
That's
Maria.
why she's here.
Thank you, Maria.
Maria's real good. Maria's real good. Disembodied as she may be. Yeah.
We need
Also,
a Maria on my show. We don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I was like, we need a producer. I can't do this without a producer. My brain would melt out of my ears. All right, so I also want to talk about, we've got Ward is now training Skye. He's her SO. And for both of them in this episode, we learn a little sprinkle about their family history. Ward had two brothers. One of them was apparently abusive. Skye was a foster kid who never had a permanent family. And so clearly they're bonding a little bit over their childhoods. And so Tony, I'll go start with you because you don't know these people. How did this affect how you feel about them at all? Did you like learning about them, or were you like, whatever?
So I've been coming around on Skye a little with each episode, and not so much the same with Agent Ward. When Agent Ward told me about his rough childhood with his brother being abusive and beating him up, I was like, that sucks, man. That is bad. Like, I am sorry you went through that, but I don't like him any more than I did.
Okay.
However, when Skye was like telling me about, I mean, that was really sad. Her talking about this one foster parent that she had, who she really wanted to love them. And it really hurt when they said it wasn't a fit because she really wanted it to work. I would think she was 12. Oh, what a horrible thing to have to go through. That was just a really effectively sad story and well acted.
I think she was 9. She was
9.
young. Yeah,
brutal, man. Absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
So no, that was really really powerful. So that one landed. Look, Skye is. We talked a little about this with Jake in the previous episode of like kind of digging, not knowing where her allegiances lie, and her maybe really not knowing where her allegiance lies. And in the end of this episode kind of seems to feel like she's made a pretty definitive choice, which they use the boxing and the training as sort of a symbol for, that she is committing to being better and she is committing to a team. However, I mean, she's so, we still haven't, dealt with the fact that she is connected to the rising tide still and speaking with them. So I hope we continue to to play with her a little bit, I'm warming to her a lot more. And yeah, I appreciated the backstories from both.
Brett, you obviously know these characters very well beyond this point. Do you remember how you felt about them at this point, this early on, the first time you watched? Do you remember what your opinions were? It's so hard to remember.
Yeah, I don't, but let's make something up and let's try to figure it out. So I first of all, I was so physically attracted to Brett Dalton as Grant Ward. Like that's all I
Fair.
saw. Like I just,
He's a hot guy.
and he was just he was a really hot guy to me, and I just really thought it was really hot. We'll get to Ian Quinn a little bit later. But so there was that. So I was still kind of like rose-colored glasses with Ward. And I knew that I had a little bit of a crush on the character because later there will be a very kind of, like guy saves girl moment, which is typically not my thing. But I remember watching that episode, and when Ward does save Sky, I remember being like, oh thank God for Ward. Oh, he saved her. And just be like, so yeah, I was pretty in love with Ward at the time. And Sky, I just thought was super cool. She was pulling espionage moves in here that were so like of the genre, she was like a fit in this kind of spy milieu. And so I really started to dig her. Like there's that move where she's talking to Ian Quinn and she writes "Shield is listening" on the paper. Yeah. It's moves like that to your point, Tony, that you still didn't know because of the Rising Tide connection. You still didn't know where her allegiances lied. And I just thought she was, I remember loving moments of savvy when it came to Sky. And so I started off really liking them for different reasons. And so, this episode didn't really do much to change my opinion of them. It kept me on the same trajectory I was on already with those characters.
My mom was in the same place as you. My mom still talks about Brett Dalton. She just really loves him.
I just think he's the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my life.
I actually wanted to. I wrote down some of what the critics said about this episode, and I think it was the AV Club said that Brett Dalton or Ward, I should say, Ward was another in a long line of mindless, boring, like hunks or something like that. And here, I got it. The latest in a line of dull Whedon hunks with just a glimmer of personality. And this offended me, not because they said it about Ward, that's fair, but first of all, this isn't really Whedon's show. He only did the first episode. Right. But beyond that, who are they talking about? What
right.
Whedon?
Yeah, not Ryan Murphy.
Whedon character.
Riley. Right.
Yeah, the only one I could think of is Riley on Buffy that matches that description. A long line?
Riley,
right.
He's a Boy Scout, but he's not dull.
No.
But Whedon didn't cast hunks.
Yeah. Except for maybe David Boreanaz as Angel, who was literally discovered walking down the street. But he's still the personality. Anyway, I was offended by that remark. Yeah. But moving on in the episode, I got to bring up the truth serum and the question of is the truth serum real? Tony, you really loved the truth serum in the first episode. So did this bum you out that it might not be real, or do you still think it's real?
That was the one glimmer of hope for the character of Ward for me in the pilot episode was getting that moment of vulnerability that he had no control over. I wouldn't put it past Agent Ward to tell his new recruit that it wasn't real because he's trying to save face and keep a sort of status over her, or to keep her off balance. I don't trust his comment. Also, and just trying to remember the first episode leading into it, Coulson's he gives a whole digression about what the serum is, and Ward's like, I didn't know we had that, and he's like, yeah, we do have this, and then bam, hits him with it. So I mean, if there was an off-camera scene where Clark Gregg was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pretend it's a truth serum and I'm going to get you with it. And you got to act like you're all vulnerable. I don't buy that. I think Ward's probably just trying to reclaim some of his lost toughness in the face of Sky.
I'm going to be honest. I genuinely do not remember if we get an answer to this, and I kind of love it.
Yeah, truly.
I could be wrong, but right now I don't know. I cannot remember if this is answered, and I think that's really fun.
I would love it if
Okay.
there is like a season 4 payoff that just went
Yeah.
completely under our radar, and we're still discovering things about this show. That would be great. That said, I absolutely think there is a truth serum, and totally agree that Ward would absolutely cover for the fact that he was vulnerable, calling it a level 1 overshare. Like of course he would backpedal.
So
What a
we
dumb
gotta
thing to call that.
obviously we've got to talk about Ian Quinn. Brett, since you talked about it before, I'm going to let you take the lead on Ian's.
So I'm so sorry to bring this super gay energy here, but
no,
Ian Quinn's another,
that's what we want.
All I want to talk about is the men's on this show. Ian Quinn is
Jamie does not like gay energy, so if you could pull it back a little.
I'm sorry. David Conrad, right? Is that the actor that plays Ian Quinn? God damn, he's so handsome. Ian Quinn is so handsome, and I love his haircut, and I love the fact that he wears no socks, and I love his whole jerky attitude. Like anybody talking shit, holding a scotch, like I don't know, like classic Bond villain, rich guy, douchebag, so cute. I don't know why. I love Ian Quinn, and I also found out, I did not know this before I did research about this episode, he has his own theme music written by Brer McCreary. Is that his name?
Yeah, Bear
That's
McCreary.
incredible.
I
Ian
didn't
Quinn
know that
has
either.
his own score. That's great.
Yeah.
So
I have to start listening for it because I don't clock music really easily, and so now I know that it exists. And I mean, maybe Ian will never show up again, but if he does, I'll be
nice try, nice backpedal there.
I do want to say that the same AV Club critic who bashed Ward called Quinn barely a step above a generic Miami Vice villain, and I think he meant that as an insult, but to me, compliment. That's
compliment. Absolutely.
That's exactly what he is, and it's pretty awesome.
It's great.
What you said he was wearing cool socks? What socks was he wearing?
No socks.
Yeah.
No socks.
I also noticed that.
Yes.
Can we talk costume for just a quick minute? I think Skye is underdressed for this party. She looks like she's going to the club with her girlfriends. Am I right?
Like the hot pink at when you're trying to be low key, that's a choice.
Yeah. And like a European
color doesn't work for me.
No,
I
that's it.
think
I just think she's underdressed.
It's a daytime outdoor event. Like, it's a daytime outdoor event. She doesn't need to wear like a ball gown. But I do think the hot pink was a weird choice. I will give you that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're going to see some smarter dresses later on this season.
Okay.
Maybe even one in season 2 in Face My Enemy, the episode that we were talking about earlier. But we're really far away from that. But I feel like when Face My Enemy comes in season 2, that's one that we got to have Brett on, just because I associate it with him and Kale so much. Tony, did you have any other thoughts about, or any at all about Ian, this character?
Oh no, I dug him. Good bad guy. I liked his whole that scene where he's sort of professionally seducing Skye, just being like, hey, I've always got my eyes open for people who can do cool stuff like you. I'm really happy you're here. You and I were going to talk. And I'm like, that's a pretty good deal. Like, you have just, sidled up to somebody who's powerful and revolutionary. And like, I could feel Skye's push-pull with that. So I liked him. I thought that was a good performance. Total Miami Vice bad guy in the best way possible. And I like Quinn.
He's like, Skye, we have a 401k. We've got no meeting Fridays. Like, come over. Just join us.
Yeah, we don't wear socks.
Exactly.
We don't wear socks.
I've got to bring up the fact, because I forgot this happened. Coulson brings up his damaged cards that Fury fucked up in Avengers, bloodied for no reason, because we talked about this in our first episode where I was like, Coulson should be really mad about that, and I forgot that he does bring it up. He's a little bitter about it, even though he might not be saying it to Fury's face. He's mad that those vintage cards got bloodied when they did not have to.
Yep. Did they not? I don't know, but I do like that he's got a bug up his ass about it. I would too.
Yes. And there are more MCU greater references. He says he saw plenty of action with the Avengers, and then he's like, and you died, which I love. Yeah. Franklin Hall at one point says experimentation without the thought of consequence is what brought on the Chitauri attack, which I think is, I just really like these subtle drops and and references to the greater MCU.
It was heavily
love that.
connected
Fold it
back
in.
then. I mean,
Yeah.
they really were going for a truly connected universe from the silver screen to the small screen. And so, I mean, I feel like season 1, there are heavy references to Avengers, to the Battle of New York specifically.
Yeah.
And let's see. Well, so we talked a lot about Skye being in the compound, but I do want to bring up, I love Fitzsimmons being in her ear and May just kind of in the background, like, oh God, what is this? Fitz has his popcorn like it's a show.
Such a dork. I love him.
Such a dork.
It's so
but
cute.
good spycraft.
Okay. Yes. They're like, they're a fumbly team, they're a new team, but they pull it off. They're getting there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so we got it, obviously, back to Franklin Hall, back to the Gravitonium. Coulson has what I call a Giles moment, which is where he does something a little you're like, he's this sweet, good dad character, but sometimes he's gonna fuck you up and he's gonna make a hard choice and he's gonna throw you into a vat of Gravitonium because it's the only way to save his team. Tony, how did you feel about that? I feel like this is like the first kind of, I don't want to say scary, but like dark moment for Coulson.
Yeah. I really dug that whole sequence. We're on the sub, we're standing on the wall, we're standing on the ceiling, things are being flung around. It's wicked cool. Really well produced, and I was impressed by it. Coulson making that move, it's an earned moment. I mean, how many times did he try and reason with Hall? Like, so many times of just being like, this is, you don't have to do this. There are innocent people. These Fitz and Simmons, 2 of your former students, are listening. They're telling me that you're a good guy. And just, he tried over and over again to sort of appeal to his better nature, but that man was so resolved in what he decided. And he and then he put himself in this position to be the catalyst that they needed to stop this thing from going nuclear on their ass. And it was, no part of me was like, gee, Coulson, that was harsh. I'm like, no, you kind of had to. You kind of were given no out on that.
Brett, you have feelings about this moment?
It was badass. It was like, it's just one of those great Marvel moments. It's very, it's going back to these episodes. I forgot just how like pure Marvel they really do succeed in feeling. And this was certainly one of those moments where Coulson shot the floor to then and grabbed onto the thing. And I agree, like the gravity stuff, the room tilting, the liquid being poured sideways, like all of that was just really, really cool, and like got you into what a Marvel show on ABC with a limited budget could pull off, with a little bit of creativity. One thing about Fitzsimmons and Franklin Hall, that moment where they find out that he's kidnapped and they have that sweet like, oh no, like,
Professor Hall,
oh no, we love him. Like, it's like
so
somebody
cute.
finding out a character on a show they like, something bad happened to a character they like on a show, and they're like, oh no.
No, it's a very similar maneuver as when in the first episode with the J. August Richards saves the woman from the burning building, and you're like, oh no, poor lady, she's all burnt up, and you're like, no, you're very dangerous. Like, I can play that game all day if this show wants to keep throwing these sort of moral questions and manipulating expectations and first looks and everything like that. I'm really into it.
One more thing I want to bring up before we take our quick 1 minute break is that at the end of the episode, May reports for field duty, and I really love Coulson says, "Are you committed to the cause or just watching my back?" And she says, "Same thing." I got chills just repeating it. And it's like good. Episode 3, I didn't need to wait any longer to see whatever McNowin's got up her sleeve.
Yeah,
I forgot all about Melinda May's initial reticence to be in combat. I completely forgot that about the character, because guess what? Over 7 seasons, she still isn't going, I don't know if I should fight. Like,
maybe 7. She might die before that. We don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah, we don't know. It's not in my notes. We don't know.
That is true. But I forgot how interesting that was, that she just did not want to see action. And that Coulson kind of twisted her arm to get her back onto the bus.
Yep.
totally forgot about that aspect of the character, and love that we kind of got through it. By episode 3, we're going to start to see a change in her.
Yeah.
Annie in the comments says, when will her emotions show? Who is she inside? And that's what I love so much about Ming-Na Wen's performance, is that it's so subtle. She's so stoic, but she has these moments that are like really hit you. Like even just her saying same thing so stoically says so much about her and about her feelings towards Coulson. She clearly respects him and wants to help protect him. Because he's rusty. He there's something cool. Like we didn't have any Tahiti references in this episode, but he's struggling. Tony, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on what's going on there.
Oh, I'm not worried about Coulson. He's gonna be fine. Yeah, he's rusty. He's rusty, and him going into the field and being like, I can't do the gun thing. I used to be able to do the thing. Is cute, but like, I mean, honestly, give the guy a few minutes. He's gonna get it back, because I feel it's really hard to be worried about Coulson. He's so capable, both physically and mentally. And I do like to what you were saying, Brett, with him and Ming, or May, I should say. But they, him being like, yeah, well, it's a 2-man job. So Ward's going and I'm going, and you can see her just be like, ugh. Because she's kind of like ready to be put in that position, but she's been so reticent, as you said, and differential to it. So he's just playing a long game with every single person on his team, and but it doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like he's giving them all of the tools and circumstances for everybody to be the best version of themselves. And
it feels like he knows who they are. Yes,
yeah,
he knows
absolutely.
exactly he knows who they are more than they know who they are. And he's always trying to get them into that slot. Yeah.
And he's never going to put them in a position to fail. He's always going to put them in a position that they can handle. And so he continues to be my favorite dude on the show.
Yeah. And we were watching for him at the time. It's like that was another thing. You're not really emotionally connected to Fitzsimmons and to Skye and to Ward and to May yet. You're still in the phase at episode 3 of getting to know them, but you are watching the show at the time 10 years ago. You were watching the show for Coulson. Coulson was what you were watching. And so the way that they explore his subtlety and the danger that's lurking inside him, that to me, I remember thinking early on when he was doing the gun thing, I had the opposite reaction, Tony. I was like, oh shit, that feels bad, because he says you think muscle memory would take over, and I was like, oh no, something's not right there. And I got excited for what I thought was going to be. That to me seemed like a big danger.
Yeah,
he's in trouble. Yeah, and so I remember having that feeling again watching it.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen there. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll see if the music works. I can't wait to find out. We'll see you back in 1 minute.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra. I am Jamie Jarek here with Tony Paletto and our guest Brett Manitz. We are talking about the 3rd episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Thank you again to everyone who's watching live and everyone who is listening later on podcast form. The music wasn't our music on the countdown, but it worked. So that we're getting there. We're improving.
It was seamless and it had nothing to do with us, but boy, did it play.
Brett,
good job, Maria.
Yes. good job.
Yeah.
Our mutual friend Ryan Mira created our theme music. So
No way. Tell him I say hi.
yeah, I will. We are very grateful for him because he really nailed it, which it was the music that played at the beginning. But we are back. We've talked about the episode. Now I want to drop some fun knowledge on Tony and Brett and some all of our listeners. Although Brett, I think, might know some of this because he was dropping some information too that like maybe he also read the wiki page.
Impossible.
Yes. You know, the basic information, this was watched by 12.01 million viewers within the first week, which was above average for the season. The episode, these are my favorite things to learn, which is the episode was filmed from July 29th to August 18th. Such a short amount of time, but I believe longer than the last episode. I know. They crank these out. That's why network TV will always be so impressive to me because of how fast they do it. And so I learned some stuff about the gravitonium effects, which I think were really cool. They were designed by Fuse FX, and there's like a lot of interesting stuff that was going on there. The effects supervisor Kevin Lingenfelser explained that their gravitonium shots, they were divided into two categories. There's neutral or ball-like, and then there's also the more aggressive kind. And so I'm just going to kind of read this flat out because I don't understand effects stuff well enough to just like improvise the facts. But basically, so the aggressive shots of the gravitonium more towards the end with Hall mimicked the effects of gravity while Hall was being sucked in with, quote, more sentient and deliberate motion. There were animation around that. But Ian Hart was filmed at high speed for this sequence as he fell onto a green screen stunt pad. So they actually had him falling and then were replaced with a digital double to allow the gravitonium to surround him. And I just think that's really fascinating.
Wow.
Like all that goes into even like a network show that only had less than a month to film.
Yeah, I did want to remark on how excellent that effect was. That sort of oily, black, silvery, metallic stuff just sort of wrapping around him, but it seemed kind of conscious and became one thing. I thought that was pretty impressive and gorgeous for a network effects show.
Yeah, it looks good. And that's actually, now that I'm seeing, is really the only fun fact I have because we covered a lot of them earlier, which means it is now time to ask Tony some questions, and then we're going to kick him out because Brett and I have a lot to talk about. And so, Tony, do you have any new character opinions after this episode? Did it change anything for you on any of them?
As I expressed, I'm coming around on Sky. As I said before, I think Coulson is making Ward a better person every day. I'm excited for these things to keep developing. And I loved the two guest stars. I thought the Quinn character and the Hall character were both really cool. And yeah, I do want to shout out one particular moment that, as Jamie can attest to, had me cackling. But right around like the 36-minute mark, they've got their guns drawn on Sky, and she does the move that we all maybe we all knew it was coming, where she grabs the gun that Agent Ward taught her, and now she's got the gun on him. However, there's still like one bodyguard in the background, like way in the background, and he's a short Chinese actor. I looked him up, Arnold Chon. I recognize him because he is the henchman of Fiendish Dr. Wu in Black Dynamite. So in the third act of Black Dynamite, when they go to Kung Fu Island, I remember he's got such a distinct face. I was like, I know him immediately. I was like, that's the guy from Black Dynamite.
Oh my God.
That dude is way in the back, and he's shorter than everybody, but he still has his gun drawn, and he's kind of trying to like aim it over the big guy's shoulders, so he still has Sky in his sights, and it looked hilarious, and I just started laughing out loud. And then I rewound it and showed Jamie because she missed it. She didn't think it was as funny as I did, but I like seeing.
I'll have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, we each had that moment last night because Tony had that with that, and I was like, okay. And there was a joke in Totally Killer, which a movie recommendation I have for everybody that I laughed so hard at that Tony was like, okay. And I was like laughing about it for 5 minutes.
You laughed for both of us on that one.
Yeah. So, sometimes we just don't think the same things are funny, and that's okay. It doesn't always happen a lot, but when it does, at least we're laughing. And Tony, before we leave, is there anything else about the episode?
Oh, no, I feel like I've expressed myself totally. So, yeah, guys, this is the part where I leave the room and all of you spoilery people can talk about spoilery things. But I want to say a few thank yous. First to Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our artwork. And we already said thank you, but we'll do it again to Ryan Mira for doing our music. Ryan Mira, you can find on Yellow Pills Music on Instagram. And I want to thank our producer, Maria. Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Yay.
Oh, we're happy to have you. And gosh, thank you, Brett Manis, for being our second guest ever on our podcast.
What an honor.
Thank you, Brett.
Yes.
Thank you,
the honor
Tony.
is ours.
Before Tony goes, I also want to announce our third guest next week is going to be Ian Crawford. He hosts Slayer Fest 98. So if you think I talk about Buffy too much, I'm sure that's going to be coming up next week because that's a Buffy podcast that I've done a few times. It's so much fun. For those of you who are about to leave because you were also watching for the first time and don't want to be here for the spoilers, don't forget to follow us on social media at LitoPod on Instagram and Twitter. From there, you can check out our link tree, which will take you anywhere else you want to go, our live streams on YouTube and Twitch, and on all podcast platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Leave us those 5-star reviews. And if you leave with a question with a 5-star review, we will answer it on the podcast. And Brett, so that we don't leave out the people who are going to leave right now, can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, you can check out, go to the Comic Book Queers Instagram or Twitter pages. Comic Book Queers, I think, is the URL for both. And check out our show, Comic Book Queers Legacy. It is a weekly podcast that I do with my good friend, Evil Jeff McCubbin. It is the original LGBTQ comic book podcast. It started in 2006, well before Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, I haven't been doing it for that long, but it started then, and I did do it then, but I took many breaks, and long story. But yeah, that's where you can find me, Comic Book Queers. Wherever you Google that name, wherever it takes you, I shall be there.
Amazing. Well, goodbye to Tony, and goodbye to anyone else
Bye,
who
Tony.
does not want any spoilers. Bye, Tony. See
Have
you
a good
later.
time, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Is he far enough away? Okay. But first, we have to talk about how Tony keeps saying that he thinks Coulson's making Ward a better person.
Oh my God. Oh, he's in for a treat. He's in for a
I was
horrible
watching
treat.
your face. Because I will tell the audience, Brett, that you sometimes spoil things.
I do.
You have
I do.
spoiled. Yeah,
I do. I've ruined Scream 4 for Jamie.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's true. It's still my favorite killer reveal, though, even knowing that who it was. But Brett does. So I was like, I sent Brett like a long email, like, do not forget.
Yes.
No spoilers.
I am so proud that I never said Daisy. I am so proud. Oh my God, I was so nervous the whole time.
I know. It gets me too. I know.
Even little things like Melinda May 7 seasons. Oh
yeah. You can't. It's like it's gonna happen. It's one of those things where it's like I live with Tony. I'm with him all day. Like there's certain things you just can't.
Out.
Yeah,
yes.
But hopefully we're right now we're in a good spot with him. He doesn't know a lot, but I do think it's so funny that he has no idea that Ward is Hydra. So I'm excited about that.
I mean, when I said that, I don't watch these early season 1 episodes, it's because I started at Winter Soldier. Like I started at Ward is Hydra.
And my thing, the go-to thing I've said in every episode so far is I think that people always say it doesn't get good until then, but there are so many good episodes before then. I think there are only like 3 duds, but like that's when it gets, the meat, of course. But there are so many good ones. Like again, I'm so excited to get to episode 6 because it's one of my favorite episodes. But okay, we all
watch this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we have to talk about how the trucker's name is Agent Mac.
Agent Mac, which I like to believe that it's actually Mac. He's just in disguise.
Oh, like he's got a Mission Impossible mask on?
Yeah, exactly. He's got, one of those, one of the things that they have later on, the Black Widow face masks.
They clearly just like forgot they used that name when they created the character Alfonso McKenzie, who I can't wait to get to. I'm so excited. And then
just one of the best.
I know. One of the hardest things to avoid talking about today was the fact that Ian Hart never comes back as Dr. Frankenstein,
which is mind-blowing. That actually is one of the things, like that was actually very disappointing. The fact that we are not going to get a proper Gravitron until, is it season 5 with Adrian Pastar?
Yeah, season 5.
Glenn Talbot?
At least we get him. At least there's a payoff. And it's a great payoff because we love that character. We love Talbot so much.
And then we have a little bit of Ian Quinn come back at that moment. But I remember when that happened, I remember when he was like, "Yeah, Franklin Hall and Ian Quinn are in the gravitonium," whispering to me when Glenn
Mhm.
Talbot says that. I was like, "Who?" I had no idea who he
Yeah.
was talking about. I was like, "Who the fuck is Ian Quinn?" Because it was like 4 seasons later. Yeah.
Yeah, I literally have in my notes, and Maria, we'll have to clip this for 5 years from now, where there's going to be a little flashback of Ian Quinn in season 5, just a quick little flashback, and I'm willing to bet any amount of money that when we get there, Tony is not going to remember who he is. He's going to be
I
like,
had no
"Who's
idea.
that guy?" Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only but it's also in a scene with Raina, who we're getting to on episode 5, and he's gonna remember her because Ruth Negga is an Academy Award nominated woman.
And
She's very
that's who
famous
I
now.
meant by we'll be seeing some better dresses later. I was
Yes.
referring to
Oh,
Raina.
okay. Oh, girl with the flower dress. It's literally. I was still thinking Ming Na Wen's silver
Yeah.
sparkly
No.
dress from Face My Enemy.
Raina.
You're right. We are getting there. But and
A
this made
character
me
who I
realize
love.
because yes, with Talbot. Because I know you and I used to talk about Talbot all the time. We love Talbot. He's such a funny character. He doesn't show up until episode 18. I thought, like in my
Wow.
brain, it was sooner.
He's such a core Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I
character
know.
to me. That's wild. Because he was another one that was like a big Marvel character. Like Glenn Talbot he's up there with General Thunderbolt Ross in terms of wanting to capture the Hulk in the comics. So it was a huge deal that Glenn Talbot was appearing in the show when he did.
Yes. There was also a reference, somebody said watchdogs, and they were using it more as just a general term, but it still was like, oh, we're gonna get the watchdogs in season 4, I think. And
yeah, in the
so
first
even though
arc,
it's not
right? Ghost Rider?
it's not really what they were talking about, but it still is it's like last week we were talking about Tahiti and Jake was guessing and he said the writings on the wall, and that's literally the name of the episode. When you find out Coulson, like what's going on with Coulson's writing and stuff, and like the deep part of Tahiti, and Jake just kind of guessed that and had no idea.
That's wild.
So there are certain things that I know it's killing me. I'm like, Maria has like a Bible of things that we can throw back to when it happens. And okay, one thing, so before the show started, we were talking about how you have a really fun con photo with Clark Gregg and Ming Na Wen, and you called it the Felinda photo, and I don't think Tony clocked that. But like the thing is, like Tony knows about ships. We can start talking about them being shipped early on. Like I don't like, I'm not gonna wait till season 4 to talk about Felinda because people were shipping them early on. But he hasn't heard that term yet, and I know it hadn't clicked. But for me, this had a great Felinda moment. Like to me, I didn't ship them early on. I didn't ship them the first time I watched this until season 4. But when I go back, I do from the beginning. And this episode was like, oh, it's there. The seeds were planted.
It's there. It absolutely was there. You could tell that the creation of the show, they wanted some sort of special emotional relationship between Melinda May and Phil Coulson. And it really does start to come out. At the time, you can chalk it up to loyalty, that she's just a true soldier and that she is loyal to her SO. But, you can't help but wonder, is there something more there?
Mm-hmm. Especially when and Tony's whole thing, like Fitzsimmons seem like brother and sister, and yeah, they do at this point. But there is going to be a change, and it's not until they're in the bottom of the ocean. That's really not.
And I was just going to say that's why I start. That's why I start there, is because that's when Fitzsimmons. This was the biggest thing watching these early episodes, and I said it to my husband when I was watching it. I was like, wow. They were still just two nerdy scientists and not the heart and soul of the show.
I know.
And they really do start to become the heart and soul of the show at the end at the bottom of the ocean.
Yes. Oh,
that's what.
And so are just kind of general. Is there anything else that you thought about or noted in this episode that made you think about the future?
The thing that just cracks me up is, especially with what happened at the end of Ms. Marvel, how Kamala Khan, I always say Kamala Khan, how she single-handedly, with the reveal that she has mutant DNA, how she single-handedly made the Inhumans irrelevant. So like among the comic book reading community, when you heard that little at the end of Ms. Marvel, everyone was like, fuck the Inhumans. Because there was a while where the Inhumans were replaced the X-Men The guy that was running
Mhm.
Marvel was so mad about Fox owning the X-Men that you started to see no X-Men characters in merchandising. They would be replaced with like other Avengers or Inhumans characters. For a long stretch, the Inhumans were trying to be pushed as the X-Men, and the X-Men were put on the back burner, and it drove the fans crazy. And so this comeuppance for the Inhumans via Ms. Marvel feels so good. All of this to say, I know so much Inhuman stuff is coming, and it's just wild to me. It's wild.
It is like there, we talk about how like on Lido here we are living in 2013, so it is canon right now. We do not talk about it not being canon, the whole debate. But in the year 2023, there is the debate, and I know that there are a lot of people that want Chloe Bennett back. There's a whole Daisy Lives campaign
Oh,
going
sure.
on social media, and the thing is, like, if they bring her back, though, it has to be an alternate, a variant basically of her, and she's gonna have to be a mutant. I think is the only way to bring her back, and
Well,
I wouldn't
I
mind
mean,
that.
I don't know because Black Bolt
Mhm.
is in Multiverse of Madness, you know? So
Right, but he's you're right. So it could be like, but I still think she'd have to be a variant. And
for sure. It can't be.
yeah.
I mean, they establish
Mhm.
later in the show that this is an alternate through their own actions or because it always
Exactly.
was. Who's to say that this is not the 616?
Mhm. We talk about this
The
all the
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
time on various things, but my thing is it's either one of two things happened. Either the whole show is a branch timeline, or they do not branch
Right.
until season 5 when Thanos doesn't get snapped.
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
fine with either. I just wish they would tell us.
Yeah.
Just tell us.
Right.
Like,
Right.
just tell us.
But
Kevin Feige,
bringing
come on.
bringing
Mm.
Sky, I don't know why I'm calling her Sky, but bringing Sky back into the proper MCU now, like it would be problematic. It would bring up
Mhm.
issues
Yeah.
stemming around the Inhumans, which is just the
Mhm.
whole time I was watching this episode, I was like, I can't believe they're going to do the Inhumans so hard. Anyway,
I have never seen the show Inhumans, and I think that might be a Patreon that Tony and I do.
oh,
It
I
might have to be a
can't
drinking
wait.
thing.
I can't wait. Oh, wow.
Yes. I
But yeah,
think that is all
those
we
are the
have
big
for today.
thoughts. Okay.
Brett, thank you so much. Like, just getting to
Oh,
talk to you about Agents of
Jamie.
S.H.I.E.L.D., like, this has been most of our friendship. So it makes me so happy that we're back to
It's
this.
how it started. It's like this is a real full circle moment for us, and
I know.
I'm so
It's
happy and I'm
lovely.
so honored. Congratulations on the show. It is great. I'm happy to be on anytime, and I certainly will be listening and watching.
Thank you. We will obviously have you back. Thank you, everyone who's listening live. So happy to see some of you in the live chat. I can't wait to hear responses on social media from everybody. Next week, tune in on Sunday, October 15th for episode 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is I Spy. And once again, as always, we'll be live on YouTube and Twitch at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you again so much. Thank you to Maria. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Brett. We will see you next week.